Hello and welcome to Lexitecture, a podcast about word origins and histories. My name is Ryan, and in each episode my friend Amy and I bring a new pair of words to share their stories with each other and you. You can find our past episodes and the occasional blog post on our website at lexitecture.com. Follow along with us on Twitter and Facebook at Lexitecture, and if you really like what we do, you can support the show at patreon.com/lexitecture. Today's episode, Computer Busker. Shall we commence?
Yes, let's.
Do some words. What have you got for me today?
Well, I think I went first
Did
last
you?
time.
Okay, I'll go first.
I'm going to let you
I'll
go first. Yeah.
So my word today is Busker. And I was thinking about this because I hang out with a lot of musicians, and I was actually recently reminded of our anniversary trip to Edinburgh, now 5 years ago, which is crazy.
What?
I know, right?
You can use that for your sound check, eh?
That's right. And all the people, all the delightful performers and stuff we saw during the Fringe and everything else. So I think busker is a relatively common word, but now it essentially just means a street performer of some sort. Normally music, but dancer, artist, singer, mime, human statue, any of those things is generally lumped in with busker. Someone who performs on a street corner or some other public venue, usually for money, just sort of on a Amanda Palmer, The Art of Asking basis, just sort of with a hat or a guitar case open. Dates back to 1851 in that usage, which is older than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like I guess for some reason I think of music, the portable music of that variety. I mean, minstrels are obviously an exception to this, but the older patronage model of music I feel like I associate with is the minstrel variety where you're playing in places or for people, I guess. That just struck me as, it raised an eyebrow because I didn't think it was going to be that early that busker would mean this common usage, modern usage. But it's much older than that, actually, which I was also surprised by. I was expecting to look it up and find that it was a fairly modern word coined in like the mid-50s or something like that. And it was, but just the 1850s. In a very fun way, an earlier form of busker given by the OED under that same heading is, quote, a keen-witted, impudent person, and especially someone who, quote, obtains money and property from a ship by pretending to be a pirate, end quote. Now, this...
Well, that's just delightful for several reasons.
Right? Point number one, awesome. Point number two, what is the difference between a pretend pirate and a real pirate if the end result is you still get money and property off of a ship?
I suppose it's the amount of time in your interaction that you're able to go ha 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 rather than
I mean, I guess, but it's like a person who obtains money from a bank by pretending to be a bank robber. And it's like, I think you've just become a bank robber once you do that. But anyway, that's either here or there. I don't know what pretending to be a pirate means if you're actually stealing money and goods from a ship. It feels pretty piratey.
I was researching a word this week that eventually I decided not to talk about it because it was more about the social history rather than the word itself.
Right.
But the word that I was looking at was buffoon.
Oh, nice.
And buffoon has its roots directly from the Italian word buffo, which means clown. And I had a look at the history of clowns, which is quite interesting and quite colourful. Excuse the pun, but there was I forget the name. I forget the exact word, but there was a particular type of clown whose shtick was to pretend to be shipwrecked, pretend to be a survivor of a shipwreck.
Oh.
Now, as I'm saying that, it sounds so completely crazy. That I actually feel like I might have to check it out.
It does sound slightly
because
that's interesting though. It's a very niche market.
I'm sure that's where I was. I'm sure that's what I was doing when I read about someone pretending to be shipwrecked.
Weird.
Pray continue. And I'll see if I can find it.
Maybe they were pretending to be shipwrecked after being attacked by a pretend pirate.
Yeah, indeed.
So, Etym Online points out an interesting folk etymology here, and it's more interesting because I don't. Not only have I not heard that folk etymology, but I had never even heard of the word that it is falsely attributed to being related to. But points out that there's a folk etymology that links busker to buskin, which is a word I've never heard of, Buskin, which is related to the stage, words relating to performance of tragedy, and it comes from the word used to translate an ancient Greek word referring to a particular kind of high, thick-soled boot that was worn during the performance of Athenian tragedies, as opposed to socks,
nice.
which were worn during comedies, which is weird, because ancient Greek drama is weird.
That's so brilliant.
But yeah.
So if it was a comedy, socks were the go, and if it was a tragedy, it was all about the boots.
I guess so, yeah. Anyway, so that
Wow.
I learned something new there, and then learned that it has nothing to do with busker, so you have also now wasted all of your time with that too.
Oh, I've just had a look, and it was in fact a meme that I saw. It was nothing to do with the clowns. I've gotten confused in my various internetings. It was a meme. I believe it probably came from the Vagabond Linguist page that I discovered recently that posts a lot of really good stuff. And it was a meme about English is some of the best examples of stupidly specific words. And then it gives a list of about 8 or 9 really specific words. One of them is whipjack, a beggar, specifically one who is pretending to have been shipwrecked.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So it wasn't a
Whipjack's in
clown,
there
it was
too.
a whipjack. Yeah. Apologies. That was, even for me, that was quite a developed interruption.
That was a well-developed interruption. That's good. This is like final form interruption on that one. Advanced evolution.
Oh, maybe.
So unsurprisingly, the word busker comes from the verb first. So a busker is one who busks. And the verb busk is also unsurprisingly even older than the word busker. What surprised me was that how common and varied it used to be. So, and this is also one where you look at, the OED has 4 different examples of the usage of busker as a verb, busk as a verb, But the origins are totally different. They're spelled the same. The first one is busk, meaning like to prepare yourself or to make ready or to dress or to adorn. And this comes from a Scandinavian root. They relate it to an Icelandic root, meaning to make ready for a voyage or something. And this ties in with the second use, which is a really long-standing one, and people out there may be shaking their heads going, yeah, of course that's a use. But to busk was a verb talking about the way birds puff up their feathers in some sort of display. It started as being...
I saw that happening just today.
Yeah, well, that bird was busking. Apparently now,
nice.
In modern usage, it was only busking if it was in a form of aggression or an antagonistic display, but it used to be that it was just a form of display using puffed up feathers, which you can kind of see being related to the usage of adorning or make ready or dressing someone, yourself.
Yeah, sure.
But the citations range from the 1560s through to the 1970s. So it's a really long-standing use of this word that I just had no idea about. So that's that. They have one citation in the 1620s where busking meant fly fishing. Don't know why.
Fly fishing is an interesting little linguistic kind of cul-de-sac. Maybe cul-de-sac's the wrong word to use. It's a bit like, we've talked before about the wonderful richness of words related to the sea.
Yeah.
But fishing seems to me to be one of these hobbies that has a really varied and vast vocabulary that applies only to fishing.
It's got a deep lexicon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Then the fourth use of busk as a verb is the one that led to the modern busker. It's from a Romance language lineage borrowed from either French or Spanish. The first ladder in the etymological journey that the OED gives is a French word busquer, Busquer, which it defines as to look for, shift, to filch, to prowl, to catch, one of those things. And then it goes back and relates it to Catalan and to older Spanish and Portuguese and all these other things. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, it says origin unknown for that. What confused me is I saw the origin unknown and I was like, I wonder if I could look this up in a French etymological dictionary. Those have to exist. And they do. Oh, and I found a couple. But the thing is that every time I looked up, and no matter what French dictionary I looked up, busque or busquet in, it directed me to basically a word busc, which was a word meaning a whalebone corset. So,
interesting.
which either means I was in the wrong place entirely and I didn't know what I was doing, which is 100% possible. But it also seems to loop that back to another possible origin of the Scandinavian first form of the verb, to get ready or to dress or to adorn oneself.
Yeah, sure.
Which
get your corset on, love.
Which didn't seem to be related to the Romance languages and seemed to be more of the Scandinavian Old Norse lineage. So I don't know where that leaves us, except for spinning in circles and marveling at the surprising oldness of the word busk and busker. What I do know is that over the course of the last month, we have had 71 downloads attributed to, or people with their devices registered in somehow, in France. So
cool.
If there is someone in France who is listening to this, please tell me if you know something different about this busk or busquet or some variant, if that's ringing any bells. Somebody help, because I ran out of things to talk about when I got to French, and I'm really interested to see if that's a connection with, if I was in the right place, if it's a connection with the Scandinavian, with that sort of getting ready, getting dressed, if there's another usage that might make more sense. Anything to do with this, if you're listening and you know more than me, which is everybody, but about this particular thing, please do email or tweet or whatever, because now I'm done, and that's it. And that's the story of Busker.
Busker, I like it a lot. Dundee has a celebrity busker. I've just been in the centre of town doing some shopping with my husband, and I noticed both a bird busking, not in the sense of showing his chops for a fight. I think it was just a little bit cold, and we were sitting outside eating sandwiches, and so of course the birds came flocking, and one of the birds was really, really, really puffed up. Busking, as I now know. I'd never heard that sense of the word before. It's really lovely. I just out of curiosity, I do recall reading a book. I read a series of books when I was a kid that were set around the life of Mary Queen of Scots, sort of historical fiction things, and the word arquebus and arquebusque were used.
Oh.
I believe an arquebusque is a type of an early type of gun. I'd need to check that. So while you were talking, I was wondering about busque.
Yeah.
Now it would seem that busquet. I'm very, very bad for ignoring accents, because we don't tend to use them much in English, and then that's fine until you go to a country and try to speak a language that involves accents, and you realise that you're talking nonsense because you don't know how to pronounce things, because they are in fact two different words.
Right, yeah.
However, Wikipedia has an entry for busk, busque.
Okay.
And it's a cute one. It's a nice one. I like it. Busk cited as being Occitan from busca, meaning log. You know how we love logs around
Nice.
here. So Busker is a commune in the Tarn department in southern France, but it has its origins in logs.
Huh.
The Busker in Dundee, he's kind of a... Recently I saw a letter to the local paper that said he was a disgrace and disgusting and should be moved on. And
wow,
quite a lot of people said, get over yourself. He's an older gentleman who has the quite ambitious shtick routine of singing and accompanying himself while singing on the harmonica.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I thought I would just give you a minute there to consider it. So
That is ambitious.
He's not much of a singer. He's not the best harmonica player I've ever heard in my whole life. I don't play the harmonica, so he makes noises in roughly the right order most of the time. His musical abilities are pretty awful, and he either has the most incredible, wonderful, doesn't give a shit self-confidence, or there's some substance at play.
Right.
In his kind of... Yeah, that's not fair. I'm just thinking that there are lots of other shades that fall in between those two extremes. But he's a bit of a Dundee local character.
That sounds amazing.
I can think of I can think of the word busk. As soon as you mentioned it, I thought of this song that my dad used to sing when I was a little girl. It's a Scot song. I think there's a version of it by the Corries, who are a really lovely sort of 1960s, 70s Scottish folk band, and we all have a very fond place in our hearts for the Corries in my family, because my dad used to sing a lot of those songs. And the song goes, "Will you gang to the Heelans, Leezy Lindsay? Will you gang to the Heelans with me?" No, sorry, I'm talking absolute nonsense. That's not the song. I've got Lazy Lindsay in my head, and in fact, what I mean is Lassie with a Yellow Coatie. That's the one.
Okay.
And that one says, "Lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye wed a moorland jockey? Lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me?"
Oh, okay.
And I presume it's not a Scots word that is used often enough that I would recognise it. I presume it has that sense that you're talking about of, will you get yourself ready and come away with me?
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neat.
Not Lazy Lindsay, though. Lassie with a yellow coatie.
Wow.
It has such a fond place in my heart that I've got two songs completely mixed up.
It's funny how that happens. Especially for me, it happened recently. I was playing it was an open mic night, so I was playing a couple of tunes, and one of the longest, because it's a dead easy song that I've known forever, that I play fairly often if called upon, is "What I Got" by Sublime. And I recently started playing Lady Madonna by the Beatles, because nobody plays enough Beatles for my liking, because I like them. But the thing is that they are basically the same song in a lot of ways. And so I had played Lady Madonna, and someone requested "What I Got," so I started playing that, and I just, every time I tried to start it, I started the first few words of "What I Got" and then sang the rest of the Lady Madonna first verse. And eventually I had to stop and be like, you need to come up on stage with me and tell me what the next words are, because I have
so
a brain
frustrating when that
wall
happens.
in the way of the song that I've played thousands of times. And it was the weirdest sensation to just not be able to break through that mental barrier. But yeah, same song.
That's amazing. It really, I've had that, I don't know if it's particularly songs that bring that out in you, but that way where you're like, no, it doesn't go like this, it goes like this, and then you proceed to sing exactly the same song that you've just been
same thing,
trying to prove otherwise, and you're like, no, that's not the one I mean.
Right.
I mean this one. Oh no, that's the exact same thing.
Causality loop.
I've just, I'm just going to tell you about my life today, Ryan. If, words are good and all that, but speaking of not playing enough Beatles, are you aware of the film Yesterday? I feel like you'll be interested in it.
I am aware of it. I am interested in it. I would like to see it.
It's one of these films that I feel like I've seen trailers for it for about the past 5 years.
Yeah.
But finally it's come out. Maybe they had a problem with getting a distributor or whatever. But I messaged my mum. So I was down time with Ross, and while we were in the city centre, it's graduation season for Dundee University and Aberdeen University. And the place, the hall where the graduations take place is right in the centre of Dundee, right in the city square. So there are lots of people walking around with, dressed up folks and gowns and all that sort of stuff. So it's quite nice. It's quite a sort of festival atmosphere. It does mean that you can't get anything to eat anywhere because everywhere is busy. But, a small price to pay for the wonderful achievement of graduating. And we ran into my dad's best pal and his wife, and one of their granddaughters, who I actually used to teach when I was a school teacher. And we stopped and we chatted, and they were going to another one of their granddaughters' graduations. They were all dressed up and excited and happy, and we had a wee chat and caught up. How you doing? How's your mum? All the rest of it. And we kind of we spoke a little bit about my dad, but I found myself suddenly really quite emotional as I was talking to them, and I was like, get a grip on this. We're not going to stand in the middle of a shopping mall and have a wee greet. So as we went away, we were heading back to the car, and I said to my husband, so my dad's friend's Sandy. I said, I've never met Sandy without my dad being there. Not in my whole life have I been in his company when my dad hasn't been there. So it was, I was a little bit emotional missing my dad.
Right.
And so as I was driving home, I had a message from my mum. We were chatting about various things, and I said to her, I've just run into Sandy, and told her what happened. I said, I felt a little bit emotional. I'd never met Sandy without Dad being there. And she said, She said, "Oh, I had a bit of a cry at the end of the film the other day because Hey Jude was all over the radio when I met your dad." And I'm like, "Oh shit. That's a really bad song to have like super emotional ties to."
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know about in Canada, but like I'm definitely a Beatles fan. You know, they talk about the whole Beatles or the Stones or Elvis. Like,
Yeah.
my parents were Beatles people, and thus I became Beatles people. But even though Hey Jude is not my favourite Beatles song, not by a long chalk,
Right.
and even without trying to or consciously aiming to hear it, I'd say you hear that song about 10 times a year.
Oh yeah,
At least.
I would think so.
You know, just in the passing, on adverts or in pubs or at parties or wherever.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a pisser of a song to feel emotional about every time it comes on
Yeah,
radio.
no kidding. That's a drag.
So I feel like from now on, if I'm ever going to sort of like grieve for someone around about a song, I'm just going to have to start listening to super obscure music all the time,
Yeah.
so that song never ever makes me cry in a public place, just spontaneously by
Just
accident.
from now on, never listen to the same song twice. Go.
Never.
Just in case.
Well, despite the fact that you hate Apple, and
do.
despite the fact that I've had an iPhone for a bit more than 2 years now, I discovered Siri this week.
Okay. Oh yeah,
I mean, I
saw
knew
a
she was
Facebook post
there.
about this.
Yeah, because Siri is racist. 100%. Siri does not speak Scots and does not understand Scottish accents. But I was further incensed by this this morning when I realised that you can change the accent of your Siri person. So you can change
that's neat.
change it from female to male. And then there's a selection of about 5 or 6 different accents that you can have them use. And it has British, which is a bullshit because there's no such thing as a British accent.
Right, yeah.
But they also have Irish. And I'm like, Irish, but no Scots?
Oh, okay.
Unfair.
Yeah.
I did turn on male South African Siri just so I could make him say diplomatic immunity, but the accent wasn't as good as the faintly racist. My husband likes to pretend he has a South African accent by saying exactly that phrase and pretty much nothing else.
Right, yeah.
And it's super racist and quite embarrassing. But I've just done it on a podcast, so I probably can't complain at him.
But here we
anymore
are.
Hey Ross, do your South African accent. No!
Yeah, that's right. Wow.
Yeah. But I did make Siri say diplomatic.
Oh, obviously.
Siri doesn't have that kind of South African accent. It was very, very upset.
That's too bad. That's very disappointing.
Okay, I should probably talk about a word.
Hey, sure.
Since we've stopped busking.
Yeah. What have we got?
Okay. Well, it's funny because before we started talking about words, we were talking about counting things up and shining the black light of dumb. We don't. Blacklight is very much a North American phrase for me, but I seem to have picked it up in the last 10 minutes. UV light,
Right.
generally speaking,
Okay.
we would say here. But this notion of kind of counting is very much related to the word that I'm going to talk about today, which is computer.
Oh, nice.
And computer, noun, formed within English by derivation, so the OED says, has 3 main sort of main definitions according to the OED. We have first, a person who makes calculations or computations, a calculator, a reckoner, or specifically a person employed to make calculations in an observatory and surveying, etc. And it lists that this usage is chiefly historical. We also have, sense 2, a device or machine for performing or facilitating calculation. I don't feel like enough things are called devices these days.
No, it's true.
To me, device implies that there are Heath Robinson-looking Wallace and Gromit moving parts and slightly esoteric workings going on. It makes me think about the Discworld Hex, the spell engine.
Right.
Yeah? Anyway, so it's a device or machine for performing or facilitating calculations.
I love device.
And then the third sense, an electronic device or system of devices which is used to store, manipulate, and communicate information, perform complex calculations, or control or regulate other devices or machines, and is capable of receiving information, data, and of processing it in accordance with variable procedural instructions, programs or software, especially a small self-contained one for individual use in the home or workplace, used especially for handling text, images, music, and video, accessing and using the internet, communicating with other people, e.g. by means of email, and playing games.
Wow.
This definition is interesting because someone must have written that definition, and they've tried very hard to be all-inclusive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is it possible to really give a full and concise definition of the things that people use computers for?
No, I don't think so.
Think that's a difficult task, most definitely.
For sure.
So in terms of the etymology of this word, we are straight away, let's just break it down into the smaller parts.
Yeah.
We have compute, the verb, plus er suffix.
Okay.
So compute, the etymological kind of bump here on OED, very technical of language I am today. We have Middle French computer, compute, to calculate.
Okay.
That's from 1595. 1595.
Wow.
Compare Anglo-Norman computer to add up to, and its etymon, classical Latin computare, to calculate, reckon, to count up, to include in reckoning. In post-classical Latin, also to estimate, take into consideration. And so this is coming from com, the prefix com, C-O-M, plus putare, to reckon or to count.
Okay.
We also have in Spanish computar from the 16th century, Latin computare from the 12th century, and computate, which I kind of love the word computate. And variations of computer include computator. There's something about words that have utterly superfluous syllables that I just really enjoy.
Disorientate is one of those that I kind of go.
Yes, that is exactly the one I was thinking of. Okay, so compute is given by the OED as to determine by arithmetical or mathematical reckoning, to calculate, reckon, or count. In later use chiefly, to ascertain by a relatively complex calculation or procedure, typically using a computer or calculating machine. So, let's take a little guess here. When we get to English citations, when do you think the first OED citation for the word compute comes in?
So 1595 was computer. I don't know. I desperately...
That was in French.
That was in French, okay.
Yeah, compute.
Okay, so it's probably not... I'm going to say mid-1600s. I desperately want it to be something really surprising like Chaucer, but I'm going to say 1653.
Okay, first citation from A. Mundy, Mirror Mutability, too many syllables there for my eyes and tongue to deal with. If men respect their fickle date of time, now in delight, then drowned in dark annoy, computing age with their unbridled time, of all estates, how brittle is their loy.
Oh, wow.
Loy? Yoy? I'm not... sorry, yoy, as in joy, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was an L. It's an I. 1579.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just to give you a little bit of context, I was thinking about this last week when we were talking about blood, and I got super duper excited about how much the sort of the further definitions for the word, it just kept on giving and giving and giving.
Yeah.
But I feel sometimes that when you get into that place of 12th century, 13th century, it's hard sometimes to actually fit that historical context into your head. It becomes just a number. And part of you recognises it's an old number, that was a long time ago, but you may not have a kind of a peg to hang that on in terms of the relative history of it.
Absolutely.
So I had a little look to see what was going on in 1579 and discovered that it was on June 17th, 1579, that Francis Drake, during his circumnavigation of the world, landed in what is now California.
Wow, okay. Wait.
Yes.
Huh. For some reason, I don't know, that stuck in my head for some reason because I had a little bit of a moment because, of course, he circumnavigated the world. And of course that means he's been to all kinds of places. But for some reason, the idea of Sir Francis Drake and California being in the same place, I don't know why. That just caused a little, like, my brain kind of went, just stalled for a second. I felt a small pop. I heard a little screech, and my brain went, nope. And then went, no, stupid, of course that makes, why is that a nope? Just shut up. Let Amy keep talking.
No, I heartily approve. I do love a brain pop.
So that's, that just happened. I don't know why. That's weird. Sorry.
Also, in 1579, Hieronymus Fabricius discovers the membranous folds that serve as valves in the veins. Because, I'm reading about blood.
I like all the words in that sentence. all of them.
Yeah. So we're talking about a long time ago.
Yeah.
Of course, we're talking about a long time ago. But, I quite like to sometimes give myself a little nudge to say, oh, that much of a long time ago.
Yeah.
Elizabeth I, a long time ago. Okie doke.
Yeah,
cool.
Just to give a reference.
Yeah, sure. So, this is what we have going on. Etim Online has this to say about computer, the noun. Dating it from the 1640s, one who calculates, a reckoner, one whose occupation is to make arithmetical calculations, and it's an agent noun from compute. Now, I like this sense of computers and calculators as being people. I don't know if you've seen the fairly wonderful film Hidden Figures.
No.
It's about it's really, really great. It's about the space race, and specifically it's about 3 African American women who were employed as, now I forget if they were calculators or computers, one of the two. They were employed by NASA, and without them the moon landing would not have happened.
Right.
Quite
yes.
simply.
Okay. Yeah. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. It's really great. I very much enjoyed it. I watched it on a plane.
Cool.
Maybe even on the plane to Boston last year. But obviously one of the major themes of the film is the way that these women are treated because of their race and their sex,
right.
in that period of time. And there's very much the sense that they are treated as tools, as objects, things that are useful to people, and when they're not useful, they don't really care about them.
Right.
And so to me, it kind of chimed in with that sense that they were just calculators. They were just computers. In the same way that these days, we wouldn't consider that a pocket calculator has feelings. A lot of the people within NASA didn't consider that these women were real people at all. They, however, got theirs because these women were awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we have the computer going on there. In terms of compute, same sense, determined by calculation from French and from Latin. However, we have also a little help in a pie.
Nice.
Woo! You know how we like pie. So we have com plus putare, which OED defined as to reckon. But originally we have the sense of to prune, from the pie root pau, P-A-U, to cut, to strike, or to stamp. And so this sense, there are 2 senses given for this particular root. It means to cut, to strike, or to stamp, and it takes us to, forms all or part of account, amputate, amputation, anapest, berate, compute, count, depute, deputy, dispute, impute, pave, pavement, pit, putative, rate, as in to scold, berate, reputation, and repute.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was very interesting. It also brought up one of my most favourite geeky language words, which is anapest. Anapest is a noun, usually spelled A-N-A-P-E-S-T. Occasionally you'll get that slightly archaic spelling of A-N-A-P-A-E-S-T.
Oh, right, yeah.
And an anapest is 2 short or unaccented syllables followed by a long or accented one.
Wow.
And we're talking here about, about metrical feet, like iambs and dactyls and all that kind of
Right, okay.
deliciously poetry, science, geeky stuff that gets me all a quiver.
Right.
So we have anapain, anapaistos in the Greek, which means to strike back or rebounding, which is quite nice. I like that a lot.
That's neat.
If you consider too short followed by a long, to strike back or to rebound.
Very cool.
From that same pirate pow. So when we consider just how long people have been counting, just how long people have been computing, there's quite a bit to say about this word. There's another pirate that I have completely lost. Where have I put it? I hate when you misplace your pie.
Absolutely, it's the worst. It's terrible. It's really interesting to me that it's one of those words that as soon as you said it, I thought about it as having a prefix and a root, because of course it does, but it hadn't previously occurred to me. And the relationship between things like computation, disputation, and reputation.
Yeah.
Like it's right there, but there's such different words now that it never would have, like, it had never occurred to me that they could be related in any way, even though it's sitting right there staring at you as you're reading them, which is interesting.
Of course, unless you're the sort of nutcases that we are, and you like to pull these things apart. Then
right, yeah,
you like I said it before. It's the sea that we swim in. We don't always notice that the water is there.
Right.
But I think that even when you are pretty, into inquiring about language, there are lots and lots of things that you just don't notice. If etymology was easy, everybody would be doing it, eh?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, and the last thing I wanted to mention was quite a nice little article that I came across on the BBC website. The page is called Magazine Monitor, and it's the Vocabularist. The Vocabularist is defined to, it's words unpicked. That's their little subheading. I've never seen the Vocabularist before on the BBC. I'm definitely going to do a little bit more exploring. I feel like there's plenty of stuff that I would find interesting there. So this article comes from the 2nd of February 2016, and it refers to the defeat by a computer of a human champion at the game of Go. Had caused much excitement. So this
right,
is the sort of starting point for this article.
I think I remember that.
So they look at the history of the word computer in a slightly different way to the way that I've done, but I thought it was worth just running through this. So it starts off with the sense that we've already mentioned, comes from the Latin putare, which means both to think and to prune. And Virgil's Georgics, which are depictions of country life, talk about tidying vines by pruning, using that a word that's related to putare. And the playwright Terence left one of the most famous Latin quotations: "I am a man, and I think nothing human foreign to me. Humani nihil alienum puto."
Oh, okay.
Now, this one I found interesting because I didn't have time to investigate whether or not there's some common etymological ground, but the word puto and puta, I don't know if they're familiar to you.
No.
They're a Spanish-Italian slang, and they mean whore. Puta,
right, okay.
A female prostitute. Yeah. As in spaghetti puttanesca, which literally means a little whore spaghetti.
Jeez.
Yeah, interesting. And then we have this sense of setting to rights or balancing an account, counting things up. And computare talks about things being calculated. Now, while we have that very, very early citation in English of the, computing one's age, Pliny uses the word computator to talk about measuring the breadth of Asia, how it should be rightly calculated, or sane computator, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry. So a computer used to be a person who did calculations, as it says here, and jobs for computers were advertised right up until the 1970s, referring to people, not machines. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So it's pretty cool that such a ubiquitous, ordinary, one in every household, sometimes one in every pocket. I don't know. Would you consider mobile phone technology to be a computer? That feels quite archaic and old-fashioned, doesn't it?
I mean, ultimately, you wouldn't say that. I don't necessarily think you'd say that, but I mean, it's definitely more of a computer than any computer I owned up until the mid to late 2000s. Like, compare this to the computers we had when we were kids. Back in my day,
what was
the
size of the RAM on the first computer you had at home?
Oh, geez, it was in the kilobytes probably. I mean, 1 megabyte of RAM.
I love it. I love, like, digital inflation. Like, remember we were... So Ryan and I went to Harvard. Remember, that was a thing.
That was a thing.
That we mentioned, every 2 or 3 minutes?
Every couple of minutes while we were there.
At least every couple of minutes while we were there. We're in Harvard!
Where are we?
And we got caught in the rain. We were kind of between conference events, and it was November, and it started to rain, like the apocalypse.
Yeah, it was raining hard.
And so suddenly everyone who was outside just started swarming into buildings. And we'd just been taking a look around the campus, the part of the campus that we were in, and we just kind of followed the swell of people moving inside. And we ended up in the mathematics building.
Yeah, that was cool.
And it was super cool. So it was just, it was a big, nice, pretty modern building, full of students and people using computers, and we immediately had that sense of, are we allowed to be here, kind of thing. Which I think you forget about that, because when you're a student you wander from building to building because they're there for you to use. But yeah, it felt a little bit like, do we have to like sign in or what? Yeah. And then we realized that there was a bathroom, so that was good because we both needed to go. But so you went to the bathroom and I was sort of hanging about, and I noticed, just, idly wandering, having a wee look, checking out what's going on in the maths building at Harvard. And I discovered that there was was it an IBM 1? I think it was called?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, an early computer.
It was huge and
in a
awesome.
giant glass case. Absolutely enormous. It's so cool that it used to be 5 rooms and a team of 20 people to operate it, and miles of paper tape with holes punched in, and now we wear them on our wrist.
And that's it for another episode of Lexitecture. To get in touch with us about something you heard this episode, you can email us at words@lexitecture.com. You can also follow along and talk to us at Lexitecture on Facebook and Twitter, and at Lexitecture Podcast on Instagram. For back episodes and the occasional blog post, visit us at Lexitecture.com. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.